Hello guys, in today's video we're going to look at what 10 gigabytes of video memory is sufficient for. Helping me out will be a 12 gigabyte 3060, a 10 gigabyte 3080, and a 3090, which is overkill with 24 gigabytes of video memory. For the test, I've chosen Cyberpunk 2077, which according to Google is the game that requires the most video memory. I used ray tracing on ultra settings throughout, only changing the resolution. In the first comparison, we can see performance normalized to about 170 watts, which is what the Zotac 3060 Twin Edge can deliver, although it consistently performed under 150 watts here. I set the Founders Edition 3090 to a 50% power limit, which is 175 watts, and the ROG Strix 3080 to a 45% power limit, since it normally operates at 370 watts, which brought its consumption just under 170 watts. Interesting results emerge at a resolution of 1024 by 768. The available VRAM isn't fully utilized on any of the cards. However, for some reason, the used VRAM varies depending on the card. The 3080 uses the least VRAM, followed by the 3060, and finally the 3090. In contrast, the situation is reversed when it comes to system memory usage. However, this does not cause any lag or stuttering. After a 20-second benchmark, the 3080 leads in performance with 83 FPS, followed by the 3090 with 71 FPS, and finally the 3060 reaches 63 FPS. The 1% low FPS is nearly identical in the aforementioned order, 52, 55, and 56 FPS. The monitor used with the computer does not support 4K, but it does have an interesting maximum selectable resolution of 3620 by 2035. At this resolution, we not only reach the 10 gigabyte limit, but also hit the 12 gigabyte memory threshold easily. At this resolution, both the 3060 and the 3080 reach their available video memory limits. It's evident from the system memory allocation that the 3080 uses 4.3 gigabytes more than when the 3090 is in the system. The frame rates here are not very indicative, with 11, 9, 10 FPS, which are completely unplayable and unenjoyable. In the next test, we measured without the 3060, using the other two cards at 100% power limit. At a resolution of 124 by 768, the situation remains unchanged, with the 3080 using 6.3 gigabytes and the 3090 using 8.3 gigabytes of video memory. The situation with system memory remains reversed, at 14.2 and 12.8 respectively. The frame rate is somewhat surprising. After a 20-second benchmark, the 3090 barely wins with 110 to 104, while the 1% low FPS more clearly demonstrates the 3090's raw power with a win of 98 to 64. However, neither card exhibits any lag or stutter. At maximum resolution, the setup is very similar, with the main difference being that the 3080's video memory is practically full, while the 3090 uses 12.3 gigabytes. The difference in system memory usage still persists, with the 3080 using 16.5 gigabytes and the 3090 using 12.8 gigabytes. Not surprisingly, the 3090 achieves a double victory in frame rates here as well, with values of 25 to 21 and 14 to 8. On the frame time graph, there are no significant differences. There are no major drops for the 3080 either, which in fact looks very similar to the 3090's graph. Finally, you can see a comparison where we're not just looking at a static image, but running from one point in the city to another. When I switched the resolution on the 3080 from 124 by 768 to maximum, the frame rate completely collapsed for a few seconds, likely because the card was performing paging operations between the video and system memory. After a few seconds, the frame rate stabilized at a constant level and maintained that throughout. The 3090 won by a similar margin as before, 24 to 20. The 1% low FPS fluctuated continuously, and there were instances where the 3080 achieved higher results over a given period. So let's consider the final question. Is 10 gigabytes of video memory enough for the 3080? In this test, you can see that the 3080's frame time graph is occasionally smoother than the 3090's, and there are no hitches once the paging is completed. I tested for about 3 afternoons and didn't encounter any continuous lags or stutters. However, at maximum graphics and resolution, the game was completely unplayable on both cards, and here comes an important factor: the raw power of the cards. Under Cyberpunk, you really can't use a resolution and graphics setting where 10 gigabytes of video memory would be insufficient if you want at least 60 FPS. Currently, even 10 gigabytes won't be fully utilized. Most videos addressing this question essentially show this difference in synthetic tests at 4K Ultra, and well, this card isn't capable of playable levels in most games at 4K Ultra settings. This will only decrease in the future. What then is the current use of a 10 gigabyte 3080? It can run games at 1440p resolution on high ultra settings at 60 FPS, and in most cases, more than 10 gigabytes of video memory won't be necessary. If you're satisfied with less than 60 frames per second, then you might as well get a console. If you liked the video, drop a like and subscribe, and if you'd like us to check other games or disagree with us, then leave a comment. See you in the next video.